Hello and welcome to a new video from JUMO campus. Today I want to speak about our electric thermostat miroTRON, and to be more specific, about the newest upgrade of the miroTRON, which includes 4 brand new features. Let's dive directly into it. Let's start with the first feature. The first feature we can see here on the back. We have a second analog input. And this is the first feature of the newest upgrade. We now have the possibility or the option to have 2 analog inputs with this double push-in clamp. We see the clamp. The clamps 1, 2 and 3 are for the first analog input, and the clamps 4, 5, 6 for the second analog input. Here for the second analog input, I've connected a resistor to it as an example. And for analog input 1, I've connected a PID RTD temperature probe. The PID RTD is fixed to a heating resistor. The heating resistor is controlled by the miroTRON, so we have a little controlled circuit here. And now the next new feature, also indicated by the Bluetooth symbol which is blinking here. We are now able to configure the miroTRON with the newest upgrade via our JUMO Smart Connect. So we can configure the miroTRON with our smartphone. The miroTRON is the first automation device which is configurable with the JUMO Smart Connect app. And therefore, this configuration part is a little bit more complex, and I will show it to you now. We want to configure this miroTRON to control this little controlled circuit. Therefore, we have to switch to our Smart Connect app. Right now, I'm on my smartphone and I have installed the JUMO Smart Connect app. If I open the app, we will directly see at the bottom that there is a device nearby. And to connect to the device, to the miroTRON, we have to pair these devices. The pairing is done by NFC. So I activate my NFC, and then you have to put your device with the NFC tag on the display of the miroTRON. And now we are paired with the device. So I can disable the NFC and we are still connected because now the connection is done via Bluetooth. If we enter the device, it reads out all of the configuration. And at this landing page, we will see at the top the name of the device. Below the name, we have the product group number. And if I open this part, then we also see the firmware version of the device. And we have a button to directly enter the website of the product. So for example, to download the manual. Then we have our connection-based information, the signal strength, the information if we are paired, and the connection status. And below it, we have our 2 analog inputs like we see them on the display. So we have analog input 1, which has the overrange error, and analog input 2, which is connected to the example resistor. Then at the bottom we have on the left the icon with the sliders. With this button we can enter our configuration. Right next to it we have this graph icon. There we can have a look at our controller graph, which is some nice feature which I will show you in this video as well. Then we can terminate the connection. And on the right side we also have access to some data as well as to a dashboard, which I will show to you later as well. But let's focus on the configuration first. So we have a little controlled circuit. The basic settings we have to do, we have to configure the analog input. As we have seen, the first analog input has an overrange error, so something needs to be configured. We have to configure our controller function. Then we have to assign the right source to our digital output. And then, because we use a two-state controller, I also want to do auto tuning to determine the parameters. And we have to configure a button to start the auto tuning function as well. Let's start with the analog inputs. In the analog inputs, we see here the default settings. And per default, linearization is set to PT100. We have a PT1000 RTD, so we should change it here. And if we make changes in the configuration, we have to send them directly. So I click on send, and now the change is made. Then, if we go to our landing page, we directly see, okay, our analog input 1 now displays a value because we changed the settings. Then we have to go to our thermostat and controller, and then the thermostat option. Because here we define the controller type, and as I mentioned before, we want to use it as a 2-point controller, so I send this change as well. Then we have to change our output signals or output signal. And we have to change it from the thermostat output to the output of our first controller channel. And we have to send this as well. Basically, we are now finished with the basic configuration. But as I mentioned before, I want to add something more. I want to get the functionality to start the auto-tuning function, and I want to start it if we press the back key longer than 3 seconds. So here I click on long press, and then I enable the start auto-tuning for this function. And then we also can have a look at the parameter set. This is a default parameter set with the proportional band of 0, a derivative time of 80, and a reset time of 350, as well as a switching period of 20 seconds. And all of these 4 values will be determined by the auto-tuning function in a moment. So if we go to our landing page, we directly see, okay, our analog input 1 now displays a value because we changed the settings. And if we switch to the device, we will see this value or our actual value as well. And now let's enter a set point at 30 centigrade. So I've entered the set point, and you see our output has closed, and now our heating resistor will heat up. We want to start the auto-tuning function now. So I started it by pressing the back key longer than 3 seconds. And we see here now the auto-tuning function is active. I forgot to change the language of the device because we see a German word here. So here is a German word for auto-tuning, but we also can change the language. Because I don't want to wait until the auto-tuning is finished, we switch back to the app right now. And at the app, if I click the controller graph icon, it takes some time, but here we will see now our actual value, our set point, and our output level. There is a translation error in this developer version of the app. On the right side, where it mentions control deviation, there should be written output level. And this controller graph is basically similar to our startup function. we can record some data. What did I mean with some data? We can store up to 360 data points within the ring buffer of the miroTRON. And depending on how I configured my recording interval or my recording resolution, depending on the time which I choose there, I have a different amount of time which I can record. For example, now we will record with 1 second. So every second we get a data point, and with 360 data points at max, this means we can record up to 6 minutes. If I increase the recording interval, then I can record for a longer amount of time. We see in the graph that the auto-tuning function is still working. I think it takes a little bit more time, maybe a few seconds. Now it's finished with the auto-tuning. We see now that the output level will change. It's not only 0 and 100% anymore, so it changed between 0 and 100%. And the actual value should now be in the direction of spot on the set point value, if the auto-tuning function got good parameters. So in terms of parameters, let's look at the parameter set. And we see that the values have changed in comparison to our default values. So our auto-tuning function did work. And directly we are using the new determined parameters in the parameter set. Now I have shown you two features, the second analog input and the smart connect configuration, basically, so that the miroTRON is configurable by the smart connect app. There are two missing features, which I will show you now at the smart connect app as well. The third feature is that we now have a toggle function for the flags. This function can be used, for example, to switch between the analog value or the analog input value and report texts. And I use it for the text at the miroTRON display at the beginning. I will show you now how to set up such a thing. So we are going to the flags, digital flags, and switch on the digital flags. Then we switch on the toggle mode and we define a toggle cycle, so for example 10 seconds. Now what does the toggle mode do? The toggle mode now switches the signal of the digital flag 1 every 10 seconds from 0 to 1 or from off to on, and then back from on to off. So we have 10 seconds off and 10 seconds on. And this we can use, as I mentioned before, for example, to switch between the display of a value, for example the analog input, and the display of report texts. So if I enter here, for example, analog input 1 test, and then choose the first digital flag as a signal to display this text, the device now switches between the analog input and the text. It switches between these every 10 seconds. Before I continue, let's switch to the device so I can show you the switching. So here you can see the switching between the text analog input 1 test and the analog input value. So back on the app, we have one feature missing, and the one feature missing is the ramp function within the controller function. And I will show you this as well. So you will find the ramp function under the controller function. And here you switch on the function by defining the time unit of the gradient. So I choose minutes here, but you also can choose hours or days. And we send the change. And then I can define the gradient. So for example, I want to change my set point about 5 Kelvin per minute. And basically, this was it to set up the ramp function. And to show you the ramp function in action, I will switch to our dashboard now. So here at the bottom, if you click on the 3 dots, you will find the dashboard. And the dashboard is really handy because you not only see the actual value, the set point, the output level, and the 2 set points and some different stuff. You can also add or change values. So for example, you can directly switch into manual mode. And now you can change the output level directly. Or if you switch back to automatic mode, you can also start the auto-tuning function from here and so on. And you also can change the set point value. And if I would have changed it before, then we would get a set point step. So we would change the set point directly from 30 to 35. But with the ramp function, we will change or we will enter a new set point, and the actual set point will change slightly over time with the configured or entered gradient. We will see the set point didn't change directly, but the set point will increase over time until we reach 35 centigrade in about 1 minute. Okay, I think you get the point. So I've shown you the 4 new features. It's the upgrade of the miroTRON, so the optional second analog input, the possibility to use JUMO's Smart Connect app to configure the device, the toggle function of the flags, and also the ramp function. The last thing which I want to show to you is the configuration management of the Smart Connect app. So if you click on the burger menu on the top left, you have a few more points. So for example, you can do the firmware updates of the products here. And also you have the point configuration management. And here you can receive configurations and send configurations from and to devices. So if I want to take the configuration from this device here and send it to another miroTRON, I can do it with my smartphone as well. So if I want to get the configuration from the miroTRON, I read the configuration out of the connected device. I can do this here. So I will add the configuration to my configuration manager. And now if I look at the device or all the configurations sorted by devices or by device names, I see I have 2 configurations. One which is called base video, which is the starting point for these videos basically. And then we see configuration underscore name, which is from, if we look at the timestamp, from right now. And now I could send this configuration to any other miroTRON or even send it to my PC via mail or something. I can enter a note here and so on. So now I will send the base video configuration, so the reset basically, to the device to show this as well. And basically, this was everything from my side. I have shown you the 4 new features of the upgrade of the miroTRON, the optional second analog input, the possibility to use JUMO's Smart Connect app to configure the device, the toggle function of the flex, and also the ramp function. Thank you for watching and see you next time.